Hello everyone, and welcome to this month's webinar, Web Backlog, Accurate Real-Time QAD Fulfillment Details Visible to Every Person in Every Department. I'm Denise, and I'm the moderator for today's session. By default, each person is muted upon joining, but as always, this will be an interactive session. Everyone should see a control panel, and on there is a hand icon. If you click on your icon, that will let me know that you have a question or a comment, and I can then unmute individuals one at a time during questions and answers. We have Christian and Andres, 32Soft technical consultants, joining us today, and we also have Alex Kim presenting. As you likely know, Alex is 32Soft's founder and CEO. We also, this month, are joined by special guest John Aguilar from AmSafe. After Alex's demonstration, we'll hear from John about his experience utilizing the Web Backlog solution. So let's go ahead and get started. If you're ready, Alex, I will hand off to you.
Hello everyone, and welcome to our webinar. Today we're going to talk about Web Backlog. And before we actually get started with the demonstration, I'd like to take a couple of minutes to explain the environment and the reason we designed the Web Backlog application. So let me start first with explaining like what's going on in the order processing. So as you know, in a build-to-order environment, it's order processing. It's a sequence of complicated operations, right? So each operation is performed by different people. Sometimes the same, and many teams collaborate and departments collaborate to produce the finished product, across the company and send it over to the customer, right? So and each step might be challenged with different obstacles, right? So some might be some delays, some hard stops, and then certain delays might be like for example component shortages, right? Or could be QA issues like quantity control, could be some other sort of outages or capacity issues, etc. And as you know, different orders might be, not all the orders are the same. So certain orders are maybe priority orders, and some other orders are not that important orders, right? So that you would treat them differently as well. So to illustrate the situation our customer had before backlog, I would explain like what was going on in their situation first. Okay, so they had a person who was spending a lot of time every single day just by going early in the morning and then printing the web backlog into Excel, so that he would make an Excel spreadsheet with the backlog information, and then he would use the lookup function in Excel to cross-reference new orders, new spreadsheet with the old spreadsheet from the previous day, to be able to capture the or bring over the comments that they made in a day-old spreadsheet on those orders. So why this is done? Because the comments are not part of the QAD application, so they didn't have a chance to write those comments. So basically he would produce, and then he would use the spreadsheet with the copied comments in it, and then he would then produce 5, 6, or 7 different versions of backlog information and distribute those reports to heads of departments, so they could meet later in the day and discuss situation with certain orders and things like that. Right? So once they meet, they would do some more comments. They would just flag make some other decisions and do some more updates, and this person will write those comments down into the paper, and then later he would just type them into Excel spreadsheet. Okay, so that would be the process for him every single day. And then next morning he would come again early in the morning, and then extract the data from QAD, and then bring over the comments from previous day, and then prepare different versions and so on and so forth. So it was very manual process, right? So, and as it's manual, then it's not really reliable, right? Because if something happens to this person, and that was the exact concern of the management, like what's going to happen if this person is not available, right? So who's going to prepare those backlog reports for us, like for our teams, right? So it was a question mark. So they raised a big concern. And plus, it took him quite a big number of man hours to every single day to, and if you combine them into, count those man hours per week, per month, per year, then it's a significant number of man hours. And the problem was, of course, that comments, and specifically comment, that very important piece of information was not in QAD and not on the reports, and then so that was the concern. So with the web backlog, this information becomes available right away in automatic fashion, right? So this person no longer need to be involved into preparing those reports for the different teams, right? So it's automatically being delivered, and not only to QAD users but also to anyone who requires them. With the web backlog, this process is automated, so teams do not depend on one person to get the backlog information or backlog reports every day. So they can just log into online and then get the information they need, right? And it's real time, so it's not like in the previous situation where this person prints the report to Excel, and at the minute it prints, the information becomes outdated because new orders come in, and then closed orders disappear from the backlog. Here it's real time, and no need to even hit refresh, as you will see a refresh button. So it'll be displayed automatically or updated automatically for users. Okay. The other thing is it's adjustable views, right? So refresh every 5 to 10 minutes. Useful drill downs you will see in a minute. And yeah, so let me start the presentation. Upon successful login, user will be taken into his or her default view. And what you see on my screen here is main view is my default, but I also have capability to switch to all the other views as well, right? So I can see what other departments reports look like, right? And but my default view is main, okay, as well as filters, the selection criteria, which are set for that view. Everyone who has main view as default view will have the same filters set up. Okay, but I also will be able to add some more parameters here as well. Okay, if I need to filter more. Okay, so once it's done, then I can just hit refresh, and from this moment on, the application will start pushing the data, broadcasting this information into my screen. Meaning I don't need to even hit refresh button from time to time to get the latest and greatest information. If you place mouse over to this column, you will see that a day and time stamp over there, right? So every 5 to 10 minutes, this information will be automatically refreshed. Okay, so whatever falls into those filters, whether it's new orders will show up, and then old orders, closed orders will be disappearing from my view automatically. And as you just saw, that red highlight on the in this area was showing that my screen is being refreshed, right? So if I place mouse over, my date and timestamp probably already changed, right? Also, there's another feature. As you can see, like a couple of records here have highlighted background in the first column. So that is color coding we used for some special orders. For example, that could be priority orders or some special treatment orders. And by looking into this color coding, users will be able to understand, okay, this is priority, and then I should treat them separately, like from separate from the other orders, and no questions asked. We don't need to discuss that or anything like that. So that is already we agreed already on that. Okay. Also, we have in addition to the filtering, there's a sorting capability, right? So you can just sort by different columns if that's the need. And also you can see right away how many records. In my view, it's 258 records, and the total is $429,000 of the backlog information here. I have 9 pages, and right now I'm looking at page number 1 out of 9, and I can navigate through the pages if I need to, or I can just click here, view all, and I'll be able to see all the records at the same time. Another great feature of the backlog is comment capabilities. And by using this comment capabilities, I'll be able to communicate with the status and everything to the rest of the teams, in case I do have privileges to update the comment. Not everyone would have access to update the comment, but only like certain people whom you define, right? So the other people only can see the as a read only. Okay, so I can change comments massively, like few at a time, or I can just do it individually, depending how I want to do this, right? So for example, if I want to change it for a few records, I can do this by just navigating, showing like where I should stop it, right? So from line 5 to 10, this is going to be my new comment here, and I hit submit, and my new content will immediately show up, and the same information will be immediately broadcasted to all the other people who have those records in this in their views, right? So they will see the change right away. Okay, I don't need to call them, I don't need email them, or have a production like a lot of meetings to communicate those kind of changes to those orders. So it can be done online efficiently. Okay. The other feature is the drill downs. So those hyperlinked values here, same as the item number and ID, I can just hit on click on that value and then see the sales order tracking report or In this case, it would be MRP detail inquiry, or in this case, it's a work order detail information, right? So, and in the build to order environment, the sales order line is connected to a work order, right? So that's typical situation. So that if that's the case in your, in your situation, then you will be able to actually see each, status of each work order aligned with the sales order information as well, right? On the same in the same page, right? So, for example, this order, right now it's on operation 20, and that's the machine number, and that is work center, right? So, and then if in case I want to see, specifically work orders at work center 100, then I can just use my filter and then see, and those are the orders for my work center 100, so I can work on them. Okay. In addition to a web view, users have an ability to have information in Excel view. I just need to click on that Excel icon here, and application will show me the Excel view. What happens here is, first of all, I can see all the records at the same time in Excel, right? That's one thing. There might be some extra information in Excel view versus web, because web is limited to, web view is limited to a certain number of columns here, versus Excel, it's it's not limited. We can bring more information here versus web view. However, web view is automatically being updated. That's the benefit of having this one and this one. Another use of Excel view is, in case I have a privilege, I can change comments massively, right? So I can make sure, okay, if I need to update, let's say 100 of comments at the same time, massively, I'll be able to do this easily in Excel. It would be problematic for me to do this in web, but here I can do this very, very efficiently, right? So all I need to do is basically just put a new content here and simply hit the upload button, right? And if I do have privilege for this feature, I'll be able to update them right away. Okay. Another good use of Excel view would be for your management to use this information as an analysis what's going on, because typically you can take Excel snapshot of the backlog any point of time, right? And you can use this information for further analysis, like you can see like what is my past due orders, and then the reasons for those orders being late, and you also have quantity information as well as the dollar value information. So that might, if you put them into the chart, you will be able to see the trend, what's going on, like whether your business is having a new trend of more orders being delayed like over the time, or vice versa, you're making improvements in the business, and then your past due orders are not, number of those past due orders decreasing, right? So either way, it's useful to see what's going on, and also do some analysis there. If you would prepare some recommendations for business management, then you'll be able to support the recommendation with quantitative numbers, and to be more persuasive in what you recommend. And in conclusion, I just want to say that web backlog replaces any manual effort that you require to produce backlog and produce and distribute backlog information to different teams of people while processing the orders, right? And backlog brings real-time information to anyone who requires it, right? And then allows people to communicate across departments, right? So update the statuses and then reach different goals and etc. etc. Also eliminates excessive communication and boosts productivity and improves order timeliness, right? So that concludes my quick demonstration of the web backlog. And with that, I'm giving control back to Denise.
So my name is John Aguilar, and I work with AmSafe. I'm the manufacturing and overhaul manager for our aviation restraints. Basically, we make seatbelts for airplanes. And we came across, a business problem where the backlog has assisted us tremendously in solving that business problem. So without further ado, I'll get into some of the issues we were facing and how we're actually utilizing the system now, and what it's morphed into from our initial business problem and how it's become ingrained as part of our core system that we use on a daily basis. So the problem was basically, as Alex had mentioned briefly there, is that we had a single person starting in. He would come in about 3 a.m. in the morning and work about 4 to 5 hours a day in the morning, just preparing all these various Excel spreadsheets that would then be distributed out to the various departments for managing our daily order, our backlog of orders. And so we had a need, we had a Kaizen event, and that was identified as one of the action items to see if we can improve on that process and free up some of his time and make his time more better used in different areas rather than doing a lot of manual updating in spreadsheets and maintaining comments on his own, getting feedback from supervisors after they type in or handwrite comments into these printouts. And one thing about these manual printouts is as soon as he created them, they were basically out of date. And they were very, they were good at first just for giving us an initial idea of the open orders that were due and needed to ship that day, and some of the orders that had issues. Primarily, we had a lot of part shortages, and so we had to understand, okay, why is this order past due, or is there going to be any risk to this order not shipping on time? And so that was the main driver in having this system created. And because at the time we did have a very large amount of past due orders, and our on-time delivery was not very good as well, and also we were having some quality issues. So all of these things needed to be communicated back throughout the organization to supervisors, to managers, to customer service, and ultimately to the customer, explaining why we have certain things past due, what shipments might be at risk, and any quality issues that come up to different departments. So the backlog that Alex has described has allowed us to communicate that out to the different departments. One of the biggest things that was the most difficult thing to maintain was the comments that Alex had mentioned. Is maintaining those and carrying them across from the Excel spreadsheets on a daily basis was just a very tedious effort, in using VLOOKUPs and all sorts of Excel tools to be able to bring the comments in for the orders that were still open into the new spreadsheets each day. So having the ability to update the comments, on a real-time basis and save them for the life of the order until that order ships and drops off the backlog automatically. Those comments are there with the order, explaining any issues with the system or with the orders. So the comments was a main driver for us to be able to communicate across the different departments. And one of the biggest things that we would have to communicate were part shortages. Well, sure, we would use MRP in the QAD, and open or past due order reports, and the buyers would have an understanding, but none of that would be communicated back to customer service and to the customer as to why the orders are past due or what future orders may be impacted. So part shortages were a big part of what we would put in the comments. So if there was an order that was coming past due or coming at risk, we would put the part number in there and the estimated due date of the product coming on our dock, so that then we can put an estimated ship date for the customer based off of when we would expect to have good parts coming through to our manufacturing floor to be able to complete an order. Again, estimated ship dates are a key point of communicating into those comments. We've also used the comments to flag certain business requirements that we have in our organization. For example, in our product line that's one of our up and coming product lines, we have a lot of new development coming along. And part of that is we have to identify orders that are for certification testing, because we are, go through the FAA regulated certification testing program to make sure our parts are developed on time to meet those programs. Because for us, the delay of a seatbelt could mean the delay of a seat, which ultimately could mean the delay of an aircraft delivery, which then Boeing and Airbus start finding down through the supply chain different vendors who are causing that delay. So it was a big part for us to be able to deliver product on time, and also for these new programs. So we would identify in our comments, certification builds, production validation builds, anything special about an order that would trigger us to either process that order with a little bit sooner lead time, or anything on those orders that would require special requirements, paperwork, that go along with that whole production validation and certification process. Some of the other reasons we use the comments for is if we have a quality issue out on the floor and we have to identify all the orders that are going to be affected by a component quality problem, we would identify we would do a QAD where used and identify all the top level part numbers, and then bounce that off of the open orders report, the Excel spreadsheet that we use in the backlog, and then use the multi-comment functionality to go and flag all those orders that may be affected because of a potential quality problem with a particular component. So we've used that in several cases to communicate and to identify those orders that are at risk or that need to be handled in a special way because of a component quality problem. Some other the business needs that we've also had is that we had to identify, in order to meet our monthly revenue plan, identify some orders that are in order that if in case we don't have bookings that fall into our current fiscal month, we need to identify a few orders that we need to compress the lead times on and bring into a ship sooner, assuming the customer is okay with it, and be able to manage those and identify those through the backlog and understand how much revenue that is worth. So we would we basically use the comments again to, in the first position of the comments field, we put a pound symbol, and we started calling those, that's our pounded orders list. And anything on that pounded orders list is stuff that we need to expedite into the sooner than lead time in order to meet the month-end revenue plan. So we would export that to Excel, or we could filter our comments even through the web-based backlog by using some wildcards. For example, in the comments field, you could put star, pound, star, and then it'll find anything with a pound in the comments of that field. So, and then it would total up the revenue for us and give us a list of all the orders that we need to then say, okay, we need to expedite these through the different operations on the floor so they can ship by the end of the month. So that's been a huge part of our ability to utilize the backlog and the business side of the house to actually meet a revenue plan. One thing also is, as Alex mentioned, sometimes we have, in the aviation industry, we have expedites that are very disruptive to the airlines and the operators. They call them AOGs. If anybody's familiar with that terminology, it's called aircraft on ground. And basically, it's a stop what you're doing. The customer's paying huge amount of fees in order to put their order ahead of anybody else's. And so we needed to identify those on our backlog to understand those are out there. And that they need to be handled with high urgency. And so that's where the color coding comes into play, to be able to make sure that we service those AOGs appropriately, and expedites as well. So we have a tab on our backlog just called AOGs, that's all that shows up there. And as a manager, I look at that and say, okay, how many AOGs I got for the day, and what is that going to impact as far as other orders and other customers who those orders just jumped in front of. So it also helps as a business decision there as well. We have a tab specifically for RMAs. We will flag all those orders that are RMAs that are either quality problems and we need to turn them around quickly because the customer had an issue with them and sent them back, So we use those, we flag those orders on a RMA tab, and those populate automatically on our system without any extra effort. We just click on the RMA tab, hit refresh, and we get a full list of our RMA data. We are also using, you know, since we started using this now for almost, I think it's been almost 2 years, we've morphed into using the backlog more for production planning and scheduling. Also seeing what the workload is. We have our sales order due dates, which translates from a customer requirement of some spiky demand coming into our facility, but then we try and level load that with some work order due dates. So we've added work order due dates in conjunction with sales order due dates onto our backlog to be able to see the orders that are due by work center, by item type, and see what our schedule and capacity is of parts that we can actually get out on a particular day. So we export our data based off of the different filters on the backlog to Excel, and then we use Excel pivot charts and pivot tables to do work order reports by work center, by due date, and just to look at the capacity to manage a level load of production through those work centers. So that's been key for helping us to meet our on-time delivery as well. And on-time delivery in our industry is a huge thing, because if you can maintain good on-time delivery, your past due naturally will start to decrease, and so the open orders on the backlog that are past due will continue to reduce and reduce, which is what we all want, and meet our on-time delivery goals. So in operations, in manufacturing, we use the QAD operations to track items through the different work centers and the different operations that they go through, in order to make sure that they're going to be out into our quality inspection area and into shipping on time with enough time for them to ship by the end of the day. Because there is a lead time within our own quality final out. They need everything converges in that area, and they need time to inspect it, and our shipping department needs time to process the orders appropriately. And so we've used also the ship via is important. That's one of the fields on our backlog, and we flag those orders and sequence them to be out there first that have ship vias, where they need to be processed earlier than other orders. For example, we have freight forwarders, SDV, you know, special carriers, special trucks that we need to call by 2 o'clock in the afternoon, or else that particular order is not going to ship that day. So we prioritize our orders and that we're working on the day, and hopefully get those out sooner to shipping than any of the other orders. Like FedEx comes at 5:30, so you know we got a little bit more time to get that into our shipping department. And then we also communicate the priorities and sequencing all the way through the different work areas that are responsible for touching those orders. So we see the operations that they're in, and they understand that it's now in their court. The backlog refreshes automatically, and we have material handlers in our work centers that they log into the backlog and just look at that screen and see what's in my area and what do I need to now work on to get to the next area in time for it to be QA and shipping for on-time delivery. So we've used the functionality within the different tabs, and we continue to find creative and useful ways for looking at the data. And the filters out there on the existing tabs help us drill down into the exact orders that we need to manage the business, and actually meet our on-time delivery, quality, and revenue goals for the month is what we're looking at, and level load kind of the plans. So a lot of data, all the data is coming directly from QAD, but the uniqueness of the backlog is that some of the comments and being able to utilize those in such a way, and also the export to Excel capabilities and just all the different search parameters that some of the standard browsers and reports in QAD don't offer. So that's become a huge part of our business now, is looking on that on a daily basis. Even in our shipping area, we have the ship view of the backlog defaulted on a huge screen that is basically their must ship tab, and that's the shipping priorities for the day. And we've got our ship tab. One of the unique features on there is that we've been able to identify parts in our system that have dangerous goods associated within those parts. Like we have airbags, and we have inflators, and we have what are the batteries, the lithium batteries that go into our electronic module assemblies, and those take extra processing and extra paperwork and extra time in our shipping department. So those are actually the top level orders that take any of those components, show up in different colors, to be able to alert the shipping department that those orders are coming and they need to get them, process them sooner rather than later. Also, we've on our ship tab, we've got some unique functionality also where we can have a checkbox where we say this order is not going to ship. So we don't want the shipping department actually worried about it, because we ask them to, you know, look at that ship tab daily, and by the end of the day, everything should be blank, or no order should be open on that ship tab. And so if we come across a quality issue on the floor or a particular part shortage, we want to uncheck that. We want to check that box that says "Do not ship," and that only drives the orders that are showing up on our ship tab. So that way, the shipping department doesn't see those, and they're not waiting for them. They're not worried about them. Trying to look for them at the end of the day. Say, "Oh, this is still on my must ship tab. Where is it? Where is it?" Well, we've checked the box saying it's not going to ship for whatever reason, and that way they're not worried about looking for it. The AOG color coding on the ship tab is also very helpful. The ship via on there, and then we also have comments related specifically for shipping. So if at the end of the day they couldn't get an order out, they go in there and, like, under the secure comments, only the shipping operators have the ability to update those ship comments and tell us why an order didn't ship, because sometimes they have problems with the system. Maybe it got there too late. Maybe they're waiting on different line items. Maybe they you know, all sorts of reasons why in shipping they would not be able to get an order out. So as management, we would like to understand those reasons and start gathering some data. And so every morning we pull up the backlog and see the orders that were missed from the previous day and look at those comments and understand why the order did not ship on time. And then we start coding data and getting some good Pareto analysis for us to go after and fix some of those issues. So we've come a long way in using this tool. We're starting to realize that it's, you know, a key integral part of our business, and the uptime of it is excellent. The responsiveness of the backlog is excellent. The refresh, we can configure it. We had started out at 10 minutes. I think now we're down to 5, and we think that's the magic number there for all the different users that go in at different points in time and update the different aspects of the backlog. It's just become a huge part of the business, and different people are asking. When we first started using it, they were reluctant to look at it and say, "Oh, well, this is not going to provide me what they need." But we've made several modifications, arranged things, get the tabs, the search criteria correctly, the tabs where people need them, the different functionality, and now it's becoming almost like a AmSafe portal, so to speak, that is more than just updating comments and providing, you know, status back to the departments. It's used as a management tool to manage the business. So we're very pleased with it, and we still see some opportunity to enhance it and drive some further customization and functionality within the backlog, and which we've already started planning for. So with that said, I think it's an excellent product, and there's a lot of potential out there for different organizations to utilize the tool. And it would be a good investment. We've put a lot of investment into it and effort into it, and we're seeing the payback and the rewards from it from a management standpoint. So I'd like to thank you all for your time. This is an excellent tool here, and I highly recommend it, and there's a great team behind it supporting it. So thank you, Alex, and your team for everything that you've done. So that's all. Thank you.
Thank you very much, John.
Thank you so much, John, and wow, that was terrific. Thanks again, John.